For 4 days of the World Tour race, the Tour of Beijing has toured from the city of Beijing right to the north and the northwest of the countryside here that abounds about an hour and a half's drive away from the city itself. But Beijing mixing the modern with the old right now, as it has become a bustling economy following the successful 2008 Olympic Games. And the National Stadium here, which is better known probably as the Bird's Nest to people around the world, is the scene for the final stage today. The city itself has adopted this race now for the past 2 years. This is the third running of the Tour of Beijing, and it's already visited yesterday the area around Montogo and the Great Wall of China at Badaling. Now we're bound back into the city centre for the final stage, as this magnificent structure, about an hour and a quarter's drive north from the city centre, can look down on the successful completion of another big cycle race here in the city of Beijing. Miyun, this area featuring on the first stage of the race when we went from Sunyi Olympic Rowing Centre to Yanxing, and we also visited the high spots too, especially yesterday where we finished in the Miaofang mountain itself, the first time the race has ever finished up a steep mountain top. And that stage won yesterday by Benya Insausti of the Movistar team. He conquered the climb better than most, and this is a look at how he did it. The riders now approaching the start of the last climb of the day, and all of the climbers were there, but the sprinter leading the race, Nasser Bouhani in the red jersey, he decided to give best, and he would finish the day over 16 minutes behind on the last climb. But others were trying to win the day and almost automatically become the next leader of this race. Tony Martin, the only winner so far of the Tour of Beijing in the 2 years it's been held, the German World Time Trial champion, tried a little tentative move on the lower slopes of the climb, but he was a marked man, and everybody was after him as the field slowly thinned down to about 20 riders. And then the attacks began, this one by Sky, the UK team of David Lopez. As they got to the village, just over 4 kilometres from the summit, Lopez was clear and about to be joined by the Belgian rider Jan Bakelants. Bakelants himself a stage winner in the Tour de France in July and a wearer of the yellow jersey in that race. Tony Martin was trying again to shake the pack off his wheel, but they were chasing his every move. So tenacious as they were, some 15 riders coming together again, Bakelants, Lopez, and then Dan Martin of Garmin Sharpen Island coming up behind. Martin also finding he's a marked man because he started the race as the grand favourite to win, and this they knew would have to be the day he would make his move. But maybe less so, they weren't expecting this attack coming from Benya Insausti. A sprint from the heart of what was left of the peloton, and immediately there was little reaction from the field, and that hesitation was going to cost them the day. 300 metres to go, he was clear, but Martin, trying to put right his mistake of allowing him too much of a lead, chased him, being chased in turn by Lopez and the world champion in white, Rui Costa. It was an inspired effort, there's no doubt about that, by Dan Martin. He really did look as though he was going to catch his man as they rounded the corners before the finishing line. A final sprint, and then Insausti looked over his shoulder, saw he was coming and kicked again. And that second kick was just one too many for Dan Martin, who had to do his best to hang on to cross the line second behind the new leader of the Tour of Beijing. The red jersey now changing shoulders for a third time. After Thor Hushovd and Bouhani, it was now the Spanish climber who was in red for the final day of the race, Benya Insausti. So 3 seconds advantage for him as they start this final stage over Dan Martin, 4 seconds on Lopez, 6 on Costa. So now all he has to do is complete the stage, which is currently underway, and we're going to catch up with the live action next as they now complete a 117-kilometre course. They will show you the route. It's not a very complex one, starting in the south of Beijing today as they leave Tiananmen Square Then they do a 17-kilometre section and finally cross the finishing line for the first time after 21 kilometres of the race has been covered. We've done that. And then they complete 12 laps of the 8-kilometre circuit. And at the moment, they have 7.5 laps to go to the finish. And a small breakaway just ahead of the field. So the last stage of 117 kilometres of the 835, which they will have completed by the end of this day. Sun is out, just like it was on day one, not too far away at the Shunyi Olympic rowing course. This is the sign-in down in Tiananmen Square. Marco Pinotti, a rider who ends his 15-year career today, the 6 times national time trial champion of Italy. He'll continue to work for Team BMC on the technical side after his retirement. And I can tell you right now, he's in the breakaway just at the moment. Fun and games, Damiano Caruso signing in, the winner of the King of the Mountains. No climbs today around the national park here, the Olympic Park. Dan Martin sits in second place overall, looks content. No opportunity for him to attack today either. This man will feel safe, just a little matter of completing the 117 kilometres before Insausti collects his winner's red jersey. This is Gutierrez, who was in the breakaway early yesterday and set up the winning move, in effect, for Insausti. Champion of Spain signing in, Jesus Herrera. These boys, he developed a little bit of camaraderie in front of the signing-in sheet. This rider also on the same team, Movistar, but his jersey is the jersey of the new world champion, Rui Costa. Steve Cummings signing in. And the green jersey still being worn by the man who had red yesterday, and for the last 2 days, in fact, Nasser Boihani. And that's the jersey he wants, and today be the favourite to win the stage. 5 gunshots almost together as the riders get underway here. A little bit of a neutralised rollout, nobody in any hurry, but the sky lovely and blue. Temperature moving up nicely to about 20 degrees Celsius. And amongst the riders who retired yesterday, Richie Porte, who was one of the favourites to have really rode well yesterday, but I think he's tired after a long season, and an excellent season he's had too as the wingman for Chris Froome in the Tour de France, which Froome, his teammate, won. Second British rider to have success in that event. And also Michael Matthews, the sprinter, decided not to get to the top of the mountain yesterday, and he was running Boihani close in the points competition for that green jersey, so he's given him a little bit of an advantage today by not starting. Race goes through as they ride away from Tiananmen Square. 21 kilometres by the time they get to the finishing line for the first passage, which this was about an hour ago. I can tell you that the riders are setting an incredible average speed. It's slowed down a little bit now to, I say slowed down, it was 52 kilometres an hour. It's slowed down to just under 50 kilometres an hour at the moment. I think they're a little bit concerned because of the breakaway at the front. This is still as they were making their way out, riding in a westerly direction from the south as they were leaving Tiananmen Square and the Forbidden Palace and heading on up towards now the finish itself in the Dongchong province of Beijing itself. City which is home to 21 million people here and has become a major player in the world, both economically and as a tourist attraction, since it opened everybody's eyes to this wonderful country back in 2008 in the Olympic Games. Surrounded on 3 sides by mountains, and the riders know that for sure now after this week, while Beijing itself is on a flatland plain. And one of the reasons why it is developed into such a bustling city, because up in the mountains, sprinkled in villages and smaller towns. The event itself will end the World Tour competition this year. Victory in the competition individually will go to Joaquim Rodriguez, who isn't here, didn't need to be here to defend his lead because it was a big one, ahead of Chris Froome of Team Sky. Rodriguez getting the lead off Froome in the penultimate World Tour event, the Tour of Lombardy in Italy, which Rodriguez won. So the stage is set from Tiananmen Square to right there, to the Bird's Nest. We're finishing just down below. It is 12 laps of 8 kilometers. They are just through on 7 laps to go. These are the riders in the lead. Manuela Burro, Olivier Kaysen, Christian Meyer from Germany, but his Australia team, Orica Greenedge, Marco Pinotti of Team BMC, the man who retires at the end of this race, and Juan Antonio Fletcher of Vacansoleil. And interestingly, he also ends a long career which has included 19 Grand Tours, and he will also retire at the end of this race as well. Two big names in the world of cycling paying their farewell right here on the streets of Beijing. Pinotti himself, 6 times the national champion. There he is sat at the back, and you know, he's in the breakaway, but he's only 41 seconds behind the race lead. And so he's already taken the first sprint bonus of the day. And he also got 1 second in the second sprint competition, which we've just had. So his 4 seconds now have moved him slightly better in the overall classification into 14th place today. It's unlikely that he will stay because he's so close to the overall lead. We've seen Movistar, the team of the red jersey in Saudi, always doing the chasing. They've allowed this breakaway little more than a minute, but they yo-yo it back in 54 seconds. The longest gap has been 1:13. And there you can see the blue jerseys guarding at the man in the red jersey. The rider in white, the world champion Rui Costa, also on the same team. His privilege is to wear the jersey of the world champion after his great victory in Florence, Italy, just 2 weeks ago. And for Benya in Saudi, well, he's right there in red, taking his lead brilliantly yesterday. The race always said the man that won yesterday would likely win the race, and now he wants to prove them right. The green jersey down there on Nasser Boyani, and the Frenchman winning this race on the second most important jersey, the race on points, which goes to the most consistent daily finisher. And with 2 wins in 2 consecutive days, I think you can say he's been one of the most consistent riders in the race. And today he's looking to become the first rider ever to win 3 stages in the Tour of Beijing history. The man who won here last year is in the race, Elia Viviani, and he's not been sprinting too well so far, but maybe he'll be inspired today because he knows the finishing line pretty well. This is a tried and tested stage. Total distance of 117 kilometers. Other pacemaking being done by the Costa Rican at the front at the moment, Andre Amador. Just behind him, Jesus Herrera, the champion of Spain. As we go up to the leaders, it is Pinotti on the front. He's had really good form. He's made a big point of riding this race with aggression throughout. He almost got away with a late attack yesterday on the climb up to the finish as well. So clearly wants to say farewell to the sport on top form. Professional since 1999, 15 seasons he's raced. That's a very long time. The average is usually about 8. So Pinotti, his farewell race in the colours of the American squad at BMC. He's always liked racing for American teams. He rode for the HTC team as well in the past. He started out life with the Italian Lampre team, who are indeed in this race as well. One of his biggest wins was the time trial of the Giro d'Italia last year, which was the last stage of the second biggest race in the world. The other rider here is Juan Antonio Fletcher, been one of the best riders in the one-day classic races in his career. Podium twice in the Paris-Roubaix Cobble Classic, and at the time it was very unusual to see a Spanish rider able to conquer the races in Northern Europe, in France and in Belgium. Very rarely do they like the weather, the men from the heat of Spain, but Fletcher proved to be quite different and an extremely good one-day classic rider in his career. Switching back to the peloton in Saudi. It's been a great season for this rider. He hasn't won many races in his life, but he's had two wins so far this year, and the other one was in the Giro d'Italia itself, and he also led the race for one day in the Maglia Rosa, or the pink jersey, a leader there. It's a red jersey in the Tour of Beijing for the same colour as the Chinese flag. It's a yellow jersey in the Tour de France, same colour as the old newspaper that used to sponsor the event, had yellow pages. And the same applies the Gazzetta dello Sport, the newspaper that sponsors the Giro d'Italia, is printed on pink pages, so they have a pink jersey for that race. All the hotels in the distance here. Back in 2008, this metropolis was jam-packed with thousands of people. It was a vibrant place to be, and the turning point for the economy, I think, too, of China. We're racing alongside the famous water cube here, which is an incredible piece of architecture. Where all the aquatic events were held during the Olympic Games. Here they come, up towards the last kilometre marker again. Only 6 laps to go this time around. Stepping out the rhythm at the front, the youngster on Orica Green Edge, Christian Maya. Canadian rider, very talented rider as well. And the taller figure, and if you've been following our coverage all the last 5 days, you'll remember Olivier Kaizen on day 2, caught 8 kilometres from the finish. A brave solo attack that almost worked for him. And as they come up towards the line now, 6 laps to go to the finish, which is 48 kilometres. And no sprints this time around, so they just keep on going as best they can. It's been a long breakaway. They were already clear by the time they came onto the circuit. They broke away some 5 or 10 kilometres during the ride from Tiananmen Square down to the finishing circuit here at, or up I should say, because we've raced south-north today to join the circuit across the town, or the city of Beijing. Saxo Bank rider here is Manuel Burao. The rider in red, Marco Pinot, just behind him. 2 names both retiring at the end of this day from the sport. Still Movistar. It's absolutely typical that the race will make sure that the team of the race leader does all the work. They'll just sit there and watch and wait for the chance to play their cards. The gap is about as big as it's been now, as these riders all appear to have slowed down just a little bit. 6 laps to go for the peloton. Just holding off the pursuit. There's one more sprint to come at the end of our 9th circuit, the end of lap number 9. And that's about as big as we've had. 1 minute and 24 seconds as they go under the start-finish banner. And there's the Water Cube Aquatic Centre on the right. And on the other side of the road is the Bird's Nest. This is the Olympic Park. It covers over 11 square kilometres. And he's still a breath of fresh air in the city of Beijing. Nice fishing lake, where I noticed on the walk to the finishing line today, plenty of goldfish in there as well. Minute 24. The only man that they won't want to stay out there all day, because at the minute 24 it does mean, of course, that Marco Pinotti is the virtual leader of the Tour of Beijing right now, having recovered his little time, 41 seconds lost, but he's already taken 4 seconds in bonuses, so he now is only 37 seconds behind overall. So Pinotti today has moved up from 18th in the classification to 14th place, 37 seconds rather behind in South Steep. Dan Martin Still behind there by just those 3 seconds overall as well. Or 10 seconds, I beg your pardon, overall. Rui Costa just feeling it back. His teammates just checking, is he okay? Seems to be pulling off to the left of the road there. I don't know whether he's just pulled off on the left of the road, but he's maybe for a natural break out on the course, but he's assessed that the speed has dropped a little bit now. Average speed has come down to 48.7 kilometers an hour. We have been up to 52, so it's slowed down about a kilometer an hour, that lap. Calm before the storm. 46 kilometers left to go. First time we've seen the move by Christian Meyer. The other riders and have all been in breakaways during the last 4 days of racing in the countryside to the north of the city. Juan Antonio Fletcher. His team also leaving the sport this year, so he also decided it was time for him to stop. Great Spanish rider who speaks English very well indeed, because he spent a lot of time racing on English speaking teams, mostly American. But he also spent a couple of seasons with Team Sky, and finishing off with the Dutch Vacansoleil team, having come to Sky from Team Rabobank, another Dutch team as well. So he's done the rounds and won 11 races during a career which began 1 year later than Marco Pinotti, began in 2000. Nice view of the approach. We're running down the other side of the bird's nest now, away from the finishing line, which is off to our right. I beg your pardon, is off to our left, behind the other side of the water cube. Crossing over one of the inner ring roads there. It's a series of ring road freeways here in Beijing. 3, 4, 5, 6, as they go further out from the city. And almost every time you see them, they're clogged with vehicles. Through the Olympic Green. The scene of where the Olympic torch was flying proudly in 2008 throughout the games here, just outside the Bird's Nest National Stadium. Incredible piece of architecture, and all the installations, by the way, were finished literally years ahead of schedule. No last minute panic here to bring the Olympic Games for sure. Only the city granted the Olympic Games are allowed to leave those rings proudly exposed for everyone to see for the rest of its being. And it was here where London received the Olympic Charter to show the Games in London in 2012. Still no friends for the Spanish Movistar team here. The Costa Rican rider Audrey Amador continuing to tap out the rhythm, with the champion of Spain Jesus Herrada just behind him. At a minute 24, it's I don't think when they come around next time with 5 laps to go, they will allow that gap to grow much more. It's going to take some bringing back. That's where the Olympic flame was proudly burning ahead of the riders. They race towards it now. passengers on this breakaway. Oliver Kaizen setting the pace just now. Sat at the back here for the moment is Christian Meyer, but all the riders swapping turns at the front. Burrow about to take up the running, followed by Pinotti and Fletcher in that order. This the man here, slightly built, good climber, king of the mountains there this year in the race in Portugal right back in February. He's had no places or wins since, and he won the King of the Mountains title in the Tour of the Algarve. Hasn't won a pro race yet, but he can climb, and he can also ride a time trial, finishing second in his country's national championship, which is Italy, behind Marco Pinotti, the man who's in the break with him here, but not this year, a couple of years ago. 26 years of age, so time is still very much on his side. He's always ridden for Saxo Bank since he turned professional in 2011. When we look here at Christian Meyer, the Canadian rider, has a big following in Canada. Comes from Vancouver, which was the scene of the Winter Olympics last time around, almost 4 years ago already, because next year they'll be in Russia. Time for a snack for Manuel Burrow. They've got the gap, they're setting the pace. It's a high average speed as they head up towards the completion of this lap, leaving them with 5 to go and 40 kilometers left to ride. Just on an hour of racing left at the speed they're going now. See the face there of Juan Antonio Fletcher. Five riders, 5 different teams, all World Tour teams. The only non-World Tour team in the race is Champion System. They've moved out on the backside of the circuit, round the centre of the green here in the park, where there is a market this morning and a lot of people wandering around. Not too sure whether Cedric Pino on the front there has made the right decision to wear long legs today instead of shorts, because it actually is quite warm. But he may have felt a bit chilled after yesterday, because the temperature dropped down to around 8 degrees in the mountains yesterday. Passing through, they can see 5 laps to go. Française des Jeux now taking up a little bit of help here, because they're preparing the way for Nasser Bouhanni, who rides in the green jersey. And the gap has come down now to about, well, say it come down, I make it exactly the same, 1 minute and 24. So that may be why Française des Jeux have decided it's time to come to the front and give the Movistar team a hand, because they may not be that interested in chasing down the breakaway as long as they limit the time gap to Marco Pinotti for the Spanish team. And they'll make the sprinters do the chasing. Kaizen, those big legs are pumping out the message, as they were on stage 2 of this race. But sadly, he was to fail 8 kilometers from the line. Swept up by the peloton, and Nasser Bouhanni won the sprint. The red jersey riding alongside Amador now. Rui Costa, who stopped for his natural break. He's back in the group here. You see the rainbow colours of the world champion. It's a long time since I've seen a rider so proud to pull on that jersey. He was the first ever rider from Portugal to become a world champion at the professional level, and I think it's been very, very special for him. Just riding last man at the moment is the man we first saw in action on day one, Sandro Cordial. First leader in the King of the Mountains. He won the only mountain on the day, which was a third category climb. Lost the lead the next day to Thomas de Gent of Belgium. His countryman, but on a different team. And then de Gent abandoned the race on day 3 as the lead in the King of the Mountains passed to Damiano Caruso, who will be crowned the winner of the competition today. Well, there we are, both sides now of the road. There's the peloton just over 1 minute and 20 seconds behind. Circumnavigate the top of the course. The leaders heading down back towards the bottom end of the circuit. It's largely a rectangular circuit, and the riders crossing on the opposite side of the lakes. And they're down the other side here of the Bird's Nest Stadium. Finishing line is right over the top of the stadium on the other side. This incredible structure, which was incredibly difficult to design and a lot more difficult to build. Completely different to anything that the Olympic Games had ever seen. And when it was lit up for the opening ceremony, it was spectacular. Like all of these stadia within the Olympic Park, continue to be well used too for major events of all sports. There's a major basketball game here between the American Laker team are playing here later tonight. Still no reaction from the peloton. Nobody too worried, but the gap will be constantly noted by the riders as the laps are ticked off. 4 laps to go next time they come through. Still Française Deschamps driving at the front, visibly increasing the speed all of the time now. The sun itself going down behind the water cube, and it's actually beginning to look a little bit dark here, even though the sky is still blue. In international cycle racing, a flat stage like this on the final day, no opportunity for the riders to attack the race leader. He's got his time, not a lot of it, but he's got all he thinks he needs yesterday in the mountains, and so he really has only to complete the course to be crowned the winner. He knows that, so his job of his team just to pay attention, make sure that Panotti doesn't gain any more time on them up the road, and they'll fully expect the sprinters teams to run him down before they have the sprint finish. Juan Antonio Fletcher moving over to give way to the next generation of cyclists in the youngster here, Christian Meyer of Canada and also of Orica Greenedge. Then Olivier Kaizen, followed by Manuela Borro and Marco Panotti. I wonder what he's thinking right now as he circles the course here, knowing this is the last time he'll race at this level as a professional, or probably at any level as a professional. He retires at the end of the day. Joining his team's technical side though, so he will be involved in coaching. Speaks very, very good English. Blackboard there showing the time, but I couldn't really read that. The last time I got was 1 minute and 24 seconds. Now they're saying it's 1 minute and 8, so it's come back a little bit, and I think it's that sudden surge by the FDJs at the front to just try and check on whether they can reverse this lead pretty quickly. BMC, they won't be chasing in the red jerseys. They might be trying to get in amongst the pacemakers to slow it down in favour of Pinotti. I mean, they did say last night in the hotel the race was not finished like everybody was saying it was. And I'm wondering if their secret weapon, Marco Pinotti, has actually gone into this move to try and steal the race on the very last day. And that was what they were talking about. It's a move that would rarely come off, but it could. It's not unknown for a major tour to change its leadership on the last day, especially in a short tour of 5 days. 2 kilometers to the end of the lap. Jesus Herrada at the front right. August Shimano continuing to join in. Or is that Rui Costa, who's actually come to the front to do a turn now? Now it is August Shimano. Little smile on Marco Pinotti's face, the man who is retiring. If this were to pull off and he were to win the race, that would become known as the cheekiest move I think we'll ever have seen in a stage race, slipping into a breakaway. Starting the day 41 seconds off the race lead. He's now taken enough bonus to put him 37 seconds behind the race lead. There's a 10-second win bonus, so in theory he would only need to finish half a minute ahead of the pack to steal the show. The other riders who have all lost many minutes. Olivier Kaysen, for example, in the front now, he's 26 minutes behind. Christian Meyer at the back, he's over 12 minutes behind. So it's Pinotti, the wanted man. This time they'll see 4 to go. And next time around there'll be another 3 seconds bonus at stake as well, which would also help Pinotti in his amazing little pursuit here. He's now up to 14th place overall in the race. Average speed holding at 48.5 kilometers an hour. Burrow looking across at Kaysen, wondering where he's gone. Last time around, 1 minute and 24 seconds. The two riders looking rather confused here in the peloton as to what the tactics really are. Française des Jeux have realised that if they don't start picking up the pace, Movistar aren't going to do it all themselves. Well, as they come through here and hear the bell for the next sprint as well, although it doesn't matter to them, the gap has come down. It's come down to just over a minute. They've knocked about 20 seconds off the advantage of the breakaway that lap, and it was largely by the acceleration by Française des Jeux, or FDJ as they prefer to be called. Four laps to go. I would think at 3 laps to go we're going to see a significant lifting of the pace. There's a little example of as the riders go around over the top of the ring road. You can see the amount of vehicles here, and that's every day, not just on a working day. You can see it Sunday, Friday, Saturday. Doesn't really matter in Beijing. And talking to a lot of particularly our Beijing television technicians, they actually go to work on a bike because they said it's quicker than going in a car. And if you try to use the metro system here, you can very often stand at the door for up to half an hour because all the trains coming through are totally packed with people. And that was the best way to travel around, as I recall, in the 2008 Olympics, was by the metro system. But it was fairly new then. Fonseca advertising the fact that they want their man Boyani to win the third stage of the week by doing the pacemaking at the front. The other teams are not bothered. With the loss of Michael Matthews yesterday, too, the Orica Green Edge will rely wholly on their other sprinter, Mitchell Docker, who had a third place early in the week, to try and finish it off for them. The team owner is in town as well. Jerry Ryan has come to see them. He used to do a lot of business here in China and realised a big ambition when he found the backing for an Australian team to ride in the Tour de France, which they've now done for the past 2 years. Fletcher laying it on the line, one of the most consistent professionals. Reads a race so well, often in the leading groups and often getting good results. But after today, no more. Sprint next time. Another advantage too, of course, is by allowing this breakaway to sweep up the bonus seconds. It stopped Dan Martin closing in, only 10 seconds off. He could have, in theory, have taken three second bonuses during the day, but by a breakaway taking all the points, that's taking a lot of pressure off the red leader's jersey as well. And that's why I think they'll wait until this sprint has been enacted before they start to turn the screw a little tighter to bring back those men. But they're going to need more help, that's for sure. One man from Française des Jeux is not enough. One man has already won his competition at the back of the race in the polka dot jersey, Damiano Caruso, King of the Mountains. He didn't need the 12 points available on yesterday's stage, the last stage up the mountain. He'd already won the title and he dropped off on the climb. One minute 3 seconds, which is exactly what it was as we went out on the last lap here. 4 to go. Now Rory Sutherland, the Australian member of Saxo Bank, dropping back there. I couldn't hear what he was shouting to the team car. Again, the whiteboard not too easy to read as we go through the ethnic culture park here, just off the shoulder of the riders and the ring road, or one of the ring roads. I think this one's number 4. So not everybody wants to come and see the Tour of Beijing down there. The sun is even lower behind the cube now from the finishing line. It's getting quite dark. It's another 2.5 hours before it would be totally dark here in Beijing as autumn moves over to winter. This is the 2 kilometer point on the last lap. Acceleration by Olivier Kaizen, followed by Manuela Burro. These boys still sticking to the guns. 2 seconds added, 3 seconds added now. It's gone up to 1:06. Now they haven't really been contesting this 3 second time bonus. They allowed Marco Pinotti to take 3 seconds on the first sprint, but last time through, the last sprint he had, just as we were coming on air, he was only 3rd. So we'll see whether he bothers this time around. Another 3 seconds isn't going to help him a great deal. It'll still leave him in 14th place in the race. Matt Bramier coming back onto the pack. Still hopeful that the champion system team, which is disbanding, or the sponsorship is ending, will still continue next year. There's still a lot of work being done in the wings to keep this team going, and has a very important part to play in the world of cycling. It's based in Asia. As the peloton now heading up towards the finish, the leaders are also approaching the 3 laps to go point and the sprint point. Another change at the front. Now we've got Team Cannondale coming to the front as well, and this is not a surprise because Elia Viviani won here last year when it was the opening stage of the race instead of the final stage. The riders who all finished behind him, none of them taking part in the race this year, so you'd think in theory he might do well, but he's unfortunately not been comparing too well to the fast finishing Buhani. Here they come, heading under the 1 kilometre to go, but it's a long way down the road, so our camera foreshortens the length. There's the peloton approaching 1 kilometre, as here we see the 5 leaders. It looks like they're not going to bother with the sprint either as they go through. It's going to be Juan Antonio Fletcher who brings them through, and this time Pinotti sitting it out. Fletcher takes them through, Pinotti at the back, not interested. Herrada now taking up work at the front. Katusha also helping out a little bit, followed by Olga Shimano. Now all of the teams have offered a man forward. Those are the teams with the sprinters, playing the gentleman's agreement to help with the chase. Fletcher got the sprint ahead of Christian Meyer, a sprint such as it was, and Oliver Kaizen. The gap continues to come down now as the pressure goes on, and as you can see, other riders prepared to go through now. A lot of the pace being done by the rider from China on Olga Shimano, Yan Dongjing, showing himself off to his public here in Beijing as the gap is now just over 50 seconds. They significantly have lifted up the pace, and the average speed is holding at 48.3 kilometers an hour. So these boys are going to have to launch a pursuit at 50 kilometers an hour if they're going to bring back those 5 riders. Just 3 laps to go of the 8 kilometer circuit. It's been a race-long breakaway so far since they came into the park. When they went through the underneath the finishing banner for the first passage of 13 times across the finishing line, they had 46 seconds advantage, and they gradually built on that to the biggest lead of 1:24. Now it's back to 52 seconds. Time running out, 3 laps to go. Jussi Väikkönen, the champion of Finland, and a teammate of the man in the green jersey now, Nasser Boani, has also decided he's got to leave the side of his team leader and do some pacing as well. There'll be a little concern about this breakaway at the moment, I'm sure of that. And Marco Pinotti trying to pull off a little bit of a surprise. 22 kilometers now out on the back of the course for the leaders. There's the sprinter of the race, proved to be the fastest man in the peloton. But there's a number of riders here who will go up against him and try to outmaneuver him towards the finish. He got through an almost closed door when he won his second stage in the semi-mountain stage on stage 3. Michael Rogers creeping up on the outside. He made his move yesterday but didn't quite have it. World champion Costa on the tail of a teammate, Jussi Väikkönen. Now just look at the length of the peloton. Sense of urgency has now certainly come to the race, and I thought they'd wait till that bonus sprint was out of the way before they reacted, and now they're doing that. The pressure is going on. These boys still all working together. There's all the names for you, and that's the result of the third sprint as well. We've just confirmed that with Fletcher, Meyer and Kaizen. Burrow getting the 4th place. No time bonuses for 4th, just points in the green jersey competition. There's Burrow now in 2nd place as we look down from the helicopter, which has treated us to some magnificent images throughout the race. In the mountains particularly, the way the roads are engineered here, they duck and they dive, they lie on the side of wooded hillsides, absolutely magnificent countryside, sprinkled by religious temples which go back to the famous dynasties of China. Shu Gang, the rider here, 197, he's in champion system colours there, blue. Now, riders starting to well up from the rear of the peloton, making it look rather fat, as they're thinking now of positioning themselves. They've worked this one out, of course. Sprinters have had 12 attempts by the time they get to the finish to work out where they want to launch their sprint. Whereas in the open road race stages, you get to see the finish line at the first approach, and very easy to misjudge the finish line too, but not today. The Argus Shimano team working very hard. They've had the most successful ever season as a pro outfit, a World Tour team. 4 stage wins for one of the riders who isn't here, Marcel Kittel, in the Tour de France. They also won the last one-day classic of the year the other day, Paris Tour, with John Degenkolb, the German member of the squad, youngster now really developing well. Again being stretched out now. I think this will reflect next time through the finish when we'll only see 2 laps to go. That's all that's left. Lights all turn to green, clear route. It's been such a well organised third event this on the road. Complete closure, of course, for the riders. Champion of Finland with the Blue Cross, Jussi Väikkönen. These are the leaders. Still, but only just, the leader on the road is the rider in the red jersey, is Cam Meyer. Christian Meyer rather. Cam Meyer, not the same spelling, is also on the Orica Green Edge squad. He's back in the main field at the moment as Christian Meyer here sets the pace, followed by Kaizen, Burrow, Pinotti and Fletcher. Well, they're leaving their career in style, I have to say that. The gap is down to 27 seconds, so no longer is he the virtual leader, Marco Pinotti, but as I say, these 2 riders have been great riders. They've not been remotely involved with the drug scandals which hit the sport throughout the Lance Armstrong era, and so they've had an excellent career, and it all ends for them today. But I think it's back to 27 seconds, which means that the riders aren't going to allow this to run any longer. The cars have been told to go past the breakaway. They'll be aware of it, the riders. They know that the chase is on, and this will confirm it to them as the whiteboard is shown. While at the finishing line, they are getting ready to show them 2 laps to go. Vast majority of his best riding for Juan Antonio Fletcher came when he was a long-standing member of the Dutch Rabobank team in the one-day classics. Fletcher takes his place on the back wheel of Pinotti. Christian Meyer sets the pace as they come up towards 2 laps to go now. Into the last 2 circuits of 8 kilometres. And it's unlikely they'll be still clear this time next lap with 1 to go when the bell will sound for the last lap of this year's Tour of Beijing. And keeping out of trouble will be the red jersey of Benyat in Southsea. Under international cycling rules, he'll feel safe once he makes the last 3 kilometres of the stage, because under international rules, if you have an accident at that point of the race, you will still win the race. The gap has come down enormously quickly, 26 seconds now. At 2 to go. Jussi Väikönen, who's been looking after Buani in the sprints and on the long journey towards the finishing line every day, now having to do a lot of work here. That's his other role in life, is to close this gap down so that Buani will have time to prepare himself for the sprint. These lime green riders are looking after Elia Viviani, the other good sprinter. If he can get it right, we've got Roberto Ferrari in those pinkish jerseys for Lampre. And we mustn't forget either Alessandro Patacchi. He's aging a little bit now, but he's been one of the fastest men in the world, won almost 200 races. He's here too. But these are the men who've made the pattern on this last day and made it from the gun. But I think if our camera were to look down the road now, you might even see the peloton getting them in their gun sights. Juan Antonio Fletcher, his farewell breakaway. The peloton being pulled out into an enormous line down there now. That's a sure sign the riders are riding at the front now. The average speed holding at 48.4 miles an hour, a kilometre an hour, I beg your pardon, and so it's gone a little bit quicker last lap. They've added a little bit of time on that. The lonely 5 men. 5-lane highway as they make a left turn. Kaisen in the front. He's been in breakaways before this week. Famous orange jerseys of Euskaltel Euskadi being worn there by Garcia, and sadly no longer at the end of the season, because Euskaltel withdraws their sponsorship at the end of this year, and that's the longest current running sponsorship in the sport of cycling as well. Very, very popular team. Basque riders, originally they were all Basque riders. That was one of the conditions of joining the team. They're not all Basque riders now, but in Southsea, who leads this race, certainly is a Basque rider, but not on the team. Now a little move here. Final show of defiance by the youngster Christian Meyer, the North American. Just tried to defy them for a little bit longer because they're right there in the backdrop now. They can see the breakaway. They're a lap and a half from the finish. While Canada fly the flag at the front, scene of the last Winter Olympics in Vancouver, which is actually where Christian Meyer comes from. He has a big following there as well, as he steadily developed a very good amateur cyclist to a very achieving professional cyclist. He's determined to go out fighting today for sure, but the gap is only 12 seconds now. Oh, 21, it's gone up again since Meyer made his move. August Shimano still driving. They seem to be the team. Oh no, I beg your pardon, it's actually Jussi Veikkonen, the champion of Finland with the white jersey, who's still doing the work here for Team FDJ. This is a little bit of the twisty section just round the back of the course, and it looks to me as though that breakaway led by Juan Antonio Fletcher is pulling Meyer back again. May as well just wait for them. In fact, it was Manuel Burro who was pulling him back there, and now it's Olivier Kaizen. Shortly all going to come together at the front and probably from the back too. Well, there's past the Bird's Nest again, the National Sports Centre. And by the way, tonight, if you've got time, come on in, because there's a big football match on there tonight. Brazil are playing here in the stadium, and they're playing Zambia from mid-Africa there. Well, it just shows you how fast Christian Meyer is going here, because that breakaway is really labouring to get back up to him. There's the pack in the distance, so the gap is probably 15-20 seconds still. Juan Antonio Fletcher looks at them, looks over his shoulder, sees the field, gets on with his job. Meyer can't understand why they're not coming up to him. And now it's the team of Viviani who's gone to the front to liven up the chase as well. They're coming through to the bell this time. Don't forget, when we get round to the other side of the stadium, it'll be the last lap. And normally the sprinters like a few kilometres to organise themselves, so they really want this group back in the pack if they can get them. There's the red jersey down there of Insausdeep, just keeping himself clean. As long as he stays with that group at the 3 kilometre point, he is the winner of the event, should he have a crash or a flat tyre. And it's because of the very dangerous approach to the line in sprints that rule came into being. It used to only be 1 kilometre. They've expanded it now to 3. Orica Greenedge quite a way down the line there. They're thinking of helping Mitchell Docker out in the sprint. Bit of work to do to get through the peloton. 2 of their riders abandoned now. Michael Matthews went, and so too did Michael Hepburn. 2 Australians out. Fletcher refusing to give up, stretching them again here now. He's decided to try and push it on a little bit. He knows exactly where the riders are because he took a look moments ago. Burro struggling a little bit to get by the veteran, but get by he does, followed by Kaizen. Around that same bend comes the peloton. And Francois Desjeux have now taken control. 13 seconds it took them to get round that corner behind the brake. The green jersey of Buani there for all to see, tucked into the right behind his teammates. And bet your life the other sprinters will be noting where Buani is, because he's shown us with the 2 stages he's won, he is a very quick rider in this race. I won't say he's actually overconfident, but he was making it quite clear he had every intention of winning today when he was talking before the bike race began 2 days ago. He's had his finest ever season, 11 wins already. See if he can make it a nice round dozen after 12 laps of the park here. So they're going to go into the last lap. The same men who have led over every lap, but the vital lap is now coming up. And the matter of seconds between them. There's got to be a reaction pretty soon after they hear the bell here on this final circuit. They're less than 400 metres behind, 300 metres they are behind that leading group as the bell starts to sound for them. Just 8 kilometres to go to the finish, and Oliver Kaizen leads them through. Pinotti actually sitting up off the back there. I think he thinks it's a done deal. There's the peloton going through as they're being led by the riders from Team Cannondale, which is the Australian member Cameron Worth, setting the pace. One circuit to go. The time gap was 11 seconds. Now, the red jersey there of Insausti wants to stay safe. He's right at the front. Best place to be if you can hold the pace. He's a climber, remember. He's not too interested in the flat stages. He's got his time he needs out in the mountains yesterday. There is a 10-second win bonus, but that really doesn't worry him right now, because the only man who would qualify to even draw level with him with that 10-second win bonus would be Dan Martin. And with every respect to the wonderful rider that Dan Martin is, he'll never ever beat Buani. Still they hang just in front. They can't believe it. And there comes a move again from the Canadian. Meyer quickly countered by Fletcher. They're all on him. Peloton still coming up as best they can, but they're really making this peloton close this one down. This is the last lap, and they're leaving it very late to shut down the breakaway today and also reposition themselves for the sprint finish. Meyer refuses to ease up. Fletcher can't get across to him, so he looks at Olivier Kaizen, see if he can. At the back there, Burrow grits his teeth. Now there's only 4 riders left down there at the moment as Kaizen leads through, follows by Fletcher, Burrow. Pinotti is sat up. He actually sat up as he went through the finish, and our camera turned to the peloton and went back into the bunch. No doubt to make sure he finishes safely in that bunch to confirm his small time gains, and will finish the race in 14th place overall, top 15 finish in his last race. Team Movistar riding to the finish with the winner on their team. All inspiring now, keeping him safe. He just needs to stay in that bunch upright for the next couple of kilometres. At 3 to go, he would be declared the winner should he fall, so the pressure will go off him a little bit. Can't volunteer to drop off the back, of course, because he would lose real time. It's only in the case of an accident that rule would be applied, or a flat tyre. Otherwise he has to race all the way to the finish. Well, the tidal wave is on the left of our picture here, and the breakaway that's been from the gun to just about 5 kilometres or so from the finish are now back in the pack. And it is the Amiga Farmer Quick-Step riders who have finished it off here. They've got 2 good sprinters here in Mace and Petaki. And the others are going to be the workhorses to keep the speed high. Garmin Sharp feeling they've got a chance here, perhaps with Steele von Hoff, who's been up in the top 10 in the sprints. Viviani's team on the right, and significantly not appearing in the mix just now, Team FDJ of the green jersey of Buani. You won't see the red jersey taking much interest in this now. His job is just to pedal home as winner of the third Tour of Beijing. First time we've had a name different to that of Tony Martin, who's won the first 2 editions. 4 kilometres to go. A little bit of a tentative move here. An attack by Omega Pharma Quickstep. And this looks like the style of Tony Martin diving again here, is it? Putting his move in. Trying to steal the seconds that will give him the victory. Well, Tony Martin has been terrific in this race. He's 24 seconds off winning the race. There's a 10-second win bonus. If anybody has the ability to time trial away by 14 seconds, it is Tony Martin. And really, the Movistar team should think about this one, because this is the world time trial champion. Last year, he had the world title as well. He's been the world champion for 3 consecutive years, and it is still the Italian team, Cannondale. Italian-American team, I should add, of Cannondale, trying to chase down Tony Martin. The only man to have won this race until today, and he's not going down without a fight. He currently sits 6th overall in this race, 24 seconds behind. Reaction coming also from Team AG, because they have a lot to lose here. Roman Bardet is locked on the same time as Martin overall, but in 5th place on countback. So they don't want him to slip away either. The white jerseys of AG2R. And Martin succumbed. Take your hat off to him. No, that was a great move. Now Movistar are building up as well as we head towards the finishing line now. Pink jerseys for Robert Ferrari. The red jersey over on the left there, staying nice and safe. The green jersey still in amongst its centre right of our picture. Argo Shimano getting around him. FDJ trying to keep him sheltered as best they can. His last lead-out man is normally another Canadian, Dominique Rollin, a Quebecois, a man from Quebec. 2 kilometres to go as they turn now off that left-hander. Viviani's squad. Remember, it was this team that won the stage with Viviani when we finished here last year. It wasn't the opening, it wasn't the last stage, it was the opening stage. Argo Shimano looking for Luka Mecic. Trying to make sure he's in position. The rider's so desperate to get a World Tour win, as he's knocked on the door of the podiums all year, but not the first place on the podium. 3 third places on stages in the Giro d'Italia. He's had a 2nd place here on the opening stage to Tor Hushoft. Well, the sprinter in the green jersey, he likes to come from a long way back, doesn't he? He's way down the end. There's an awful lot of ground to make up as he approaches the 1 kilometre marker. He's shown us he's capable of it on stage 3, which he won off a left-hand bend at 500 metres, and they're bringing him through now because those are the blue jerseys. But I didn't catch sight of the green jersey of Buani. But they're opening up the sprint team. He's there, and he's number 3 wheel, and he's in the right place. Dominic Roland now is trying to draw him through. He's getting through a little bit early to the front here, as they start to make the run to the line. He doesn't want to be at the front inside about 300 metres from the line as Roland swings away. So he's left the green jersey to freelance here on the back wheels of Argus Shimano and Omega Pharma Quickstep. Oh, and there was some leaning on that. Wasn't really the fault of Buani. Orica Greenedge trying to move up on the left of our picture as well, as they move across the road to chase that wheel this time. 300 metres to go now, and he's in a perfect position, Buani, and here he goes to make it 3 out of 3 attempts in the sprint finish. Has he gone too soon? He's being challenged all the way by Mecic. Is Mecic going to get his first ever victory? I think he is, right on the line. Well, that was incredible. I think Buani was just taken to the line a little bit too soon. and paid the cost there. But what an incredible sprint it was, even so. But it is Meček who finally gets across the line in a World Tour race in first place. He left it to the last possible day of the World Tour 2013, but he's done it, and that will get the monkey off his back. He is a great sprinter and now finally gets the win. Absolutely delighted, and Argus Shimano got it right today, didn't they? Somehow down the line, FDJ lost a little bit of control there. They had to come very late. It's not the first win for Luka Meček, but it's the first big win. He rode for a small team called Sava last year, but this year he joined Argus Shimano. His only victories last year were quite a lot, 4 of them in the Tour of Shanghai Lake. But this one was what he wanted at last. He also speaks excellent English, the man from Slovenia. And that's probably the language he uses in the Dutch setup here, because all Dutch people speak the English language. But let's look at that again now. A little bit of a clip of wheels there. Nobody's fault, just a little bit of enthusiasm on the part of Buani to get on the back wheel. Then they saw the move across because Orica Greenedge took up the running. At this moment in time, he was forced to freelance and chase other riders because he had no team left, like the other day when they led him to the line brilliantly. And he went to the front, but it's a long straight sprint, and he hit the front a little bit too soon this time, desperately fighting to hold off. He knew he was slowing down. He knew Meček, the 25-year-old, was coming quickly, and in the end beat him by a length. So beaten by Thor Hushovd on day 1, Meček has now come and taken the result here on day 5. But that second place finish by Buani will be enough to confirm him as the winner of the green jersey. And let's not forget the winner of the race, the first time ever by a Spanish cyclist in the 3rd year of the Tour of Beijing. Beñat Insausti is the winner of this race. Look at that sprint for 3rd place. My goodness me, what did we ever do without photo finish equipment? That is a superb sprint, and the man getting it, Moreno Hofland from Team Belkin. Breschel is in there, and also Ferrari is the rider in pink. Riders who've been sprinting very well all week. So as we see the end here, the Tour of Beijing, all the spectators will be getting ready to go and watch the football later on when Brazil plays Zambia down there in the stadium. Let's have a look at the stage result. There's the victory, the first one in a World Tour event for Luka Meček. Nasser Buani in 2nd place, Hofland, Breschel, Ferrari 5th, and Sacevic from Katusha, the Russian rider, in 6th place. Pataki washed away into 7th there, and the top 10 completed by Bernard Eisel from Team Sky. Well, now he knows what it's like, Luka Meček, to win a World Tour stage race. That team will be so happy tonight. They've tried all around the world to get him some good results. And let's have a look at the final rankings now. The red jersey, the final one that matters, going to Beñat Insausti by the same, all the gaps virtually the same as this morning. 10 seconds from the Irishman and Garmin Sharp, Dan Martin. 13 to David Lopez of Sky, the Spanish rider. 18 seconds to the world champion Rui Alberto Costa. 24 seconds to Romain Bardet. He's the best French rider in the race. 24 to the winner for the past 2 years, and 6th place for Tony Martin. Jan Bakelants in 7th. Robert Hessink of Holland and the Belkin team in 8th place. Ivan Basso, former winner of the Giro d'Italia, in 9th. And the top 10 completed by another rider from the Basque Country in Bravo from Euskaltel. Final World Tour event, and that is the final result. We'll shortly see the final red jersey. The smog looks to be coming a little bit here over Beijing at the moment. As we just have a look again, that was the little ripple down the line that pushed riders off course. Nothing too serious. And at this point it looked as though Buani was in the right place, but he was forced to take the lead too soon. And the white jersey there of the Slovenian being moved across the road a little bit by Buani, but it didn't matter. He had a lot more speed in those legs on this occasion as the Frenchman tired. Desperate moments, but I have to say I think Team FDJ got it a little bit wrong this time, and August Shimano did everything right. This is the point situation. Mechik comes up into second place, but a long way off the sprinting of Buani, who wins the green jersey, 52 points against 36. Breschel had a very good tour. Matti Breschel, third place for him, and Pataki in fourth place. Viviani never really been in the sprints this year, and down there in seventh place overall for him. And in the King of the Mountains, this competition was won yesterday by Damiano Caruso of Cannondale. A very good result. He was, for 2 days, a very consistent climber. Wes Sulzberger had one big escape that got him his points, and he finished second. Gutierrez, who was in the move yesterday, came up and finished third. Chad Bayer, fourth, when he was in the same breakaway as Sulzberger on day 2. And Olivier Kaiser, we've seen in a break today, he's finished overall in 5th place in that. Maxime Bouet in 10th place, completing the top 10. In the young riders ranking, man of the future, the French are hoping this is the man who will be the next Frenchman to win the Tour de France. They desperately need someone because they haven't won since 1985. Romain Bardet gets the victory here. Best young rider, Bravo, comes up here into second place in the young rider competition, 10th in the race itself. Bentancur, the Colombian, on AG2R, teammate of Bardet, in third place, and Jan Polanc from the Lampre squad in fourth. Very, very happy. Finally, at last, I'm a winner of a major Grand World Tour event. So we'll try and catch a word with him shortly as he gets back down towards the finishing line. He rather went down the road a ways as he comes back up to the finish, because his English is very, very good indeed. He's a big man to be a solid sprinter. He's not a big climber, of course, as he comes down towards the finishing line here. The end of another successful edition of the Tour de Beijing. It's amazing to think it's been going 3 years, well 2 years, but 3 times they've run the event now. Guaranteed to continue next year as well. And this is the final World Rankings program. I told you that Rodriguez would win because he wasn't riding and too far ahead. Chris Froome also not here, neither Valverde or Sagan or Nibali. First man taking part is Dan Martin. His performance now has moved him into 6th place in the competition. Fabian Cancellara finishing 7th, the world champion in 9th, and Richie Porte, who abandoned this race yesterday, has still retained 10th in the World Tour rankings. It's been a great season for Joaquim Rodriguez, that's for sure, and of course a great season for Chris Froome. Depends whether you call him British or African. I can tell you the Africans call him African because that's where he was educated and where he lives when he's not racing. Valverde also had an excellent season this year. A challenger throughout the season in the Grand Tours. And Peter Sagan, well, he's going to finish as the season's big winner. 22 wins for Peter Sagan already this year. And there for the last time is the podium. Everything is put up and taken down just before the race starts and just after the race finishes as they move from town to town. But of course tonight there'll be no moving anywhere because sadly this 5-day race over 835 kilometers has now rolled to a final stop here in Beijing. The riders from tonight will be heading back to their various countries as the season draws to a close and China prepares for its winter. Let's hope they've cut the grass ready for the big match down there in the bird's nest. Luka Mecic, by the way, has had 71 top 10 finishes. Now he's finally got the big win he wanted. As I say, it's not his first win as a pro, but it's his first win that he might count as a pro. I think we're now ready to actually start the presentation, so let's hear for the last time the voice of Anthony McCrossan. Well, it's they're calling for the two riders who are in the breakaway, Pinotti and Fletcher, and I suspect they're going to make a special presentation to them as they say goodbye to the world of professional cycling. They just they wouldn't be expected to be in the presentation, so they probably started to slip away. So let's hope they can bring them back. In fairness, it's a nice gesture by the organisation to do that, as they've been pros since 1999 and 2000 in the case of Fletcher. Podium places, by the way, I'm just checking on Luka Mecic's record. He's had 21 top 3 finishes in his career. And so I can imagine how overjoyed he will be tonight when he celebrates the victory. Well, I can tell there's a lot of people running around outside to try and find where all the riders have slipped away to, but it won't be very long. We will try to stay with our coverage just until we show you the final winners here in the Tour of Beijing. They've actually finished a long way ahead of expected arrival today, because they were averaging for the first 40 kilometres they were averaging 52 kilometres an hour. It's come back to finish at just on 48, which was 2 kilometres an hour faster than the organisers anticipated the speed would be today. Still, I hope you're enjoying the music, because I think it's pretty good, as we will see quite an international podium as well. When you come to the end of a World Tour series, and there is plans afoot in the years ahead to try and reduce the number of days of racing for professionals to make them a little bit more competitive. It is a long season, there's no doubt about that. These riders probably pedaling in the region of 35 to 40,000 kilometres in training and racing, and many of the riders riding in excess of 100 days of racing. Chance to see the line out again. It looked at this point as though Dominic Roland was going to look after the man in green and take him smoothly through. Watch the touch of wheels almost here as they close the gap a little bit, as they tried to push Ferrari off the wheel of Argus Shimano, and Buani just got a little bit erratic there as he flicked his bike around and almost went too close to the back wheel of Pataki. And that was signalling the Orica Green Edge to move their man through to the front, but he was quickly onto that one. All the time the man in white, Mecic, was waiting for the back wheel of Buani, and when Buani went, Mecic did get his slipstream and then gritted his teeth and drove for home. And it was at this point where Buani realised these legs weren't going to make it this time, as he dropped back into second place to finish. So I think we can go down first of all for an interview. We're just waiting for that now.
Look, you keep trying hard and good things finally happen.
Yeah, that's true. I was waiting really long time for this, and today I succeed.
Nearly pulled off a victory in the opening stage, so anxious throughout the week to try and get a win?
Yeah, sure. The first stage I was really close, so I knew I can win here, and today it happens on the last day of the season and on the World Tour, which is a really big success for me.
First World Tour win for you, and great for the team too. You've had a fantastic year.
Yeah, that's true. Really, all the guys were working hard, and we got nice results with Marcel Kittel and John Degenkolb, also with Warren. So it's really nice that I can finish it in a good way.
And what's next? What's next for you? A holiday, lie by the beach?
Yeah, I was dreaming about holidays for the whole race here, so I'm really looking forward for it.
It's a good celebration to end the season. Well done.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, I told you he could speak very good English, and I can imagine he does feel like a holiday right now. And I believe Slovenia is a very, very nice country to spend holiday time in as he goes home for the winter. Just one more look at the sprint now, as it sounds as though they're nearly ready to make the final presentations. And he completes a very successful year for Argos Shimano. He's 27 years of age. Mechik, it's of little interest, but his birthday is on my wedding anniversary, but I won't tell you what date that is. Still trying to find Mr. Fletcher, who seems to retire quicker than expected. I do hope he can come up to the presentation. The thing is, the hotel is very close to the line here, close as it's been all of the time. There's another look at the stage result. The green jersey won by Nasser Bouani of France. Breno Hofland, he's only 22, that youngster on the Belkin team. I think we're going to see a lot of him. He's developing very quickly up against big riders here. He got third. Matti Breschel, the other end of the age scale for Matti, but nonetheless a good finish for him in fourth. And Roberto Ferrari has been knocking on the door all week, but just hasn't quite got that final kick. But sometimes, as you found out with Mechik, you've really got to judge your sprint to perfection. And the final overall, in second place, Dan Martin, who completes again for him an excellent season. And I think we can go for another interview now. I suspect it might be with Inzausti.
Bueno, felicidades por segunda vez. Ha sido un año muy largo y me imagino que sentirás un alivio bastante grande. ¿Cómo te sientes después de esta victoria?
Bueno, sobre todo muy contento, ¿no? de todo el año y sobre todo pues ponerle un final así al equipo, y para mí pues bueno, yo creo que es una victoria muy bonita, ¿no? Terminan así el año.
Ayer mencionaste a tu amigo Xavi. ¿Hay alguna razón, un comentario que quieres dar especial?
No, bueno, un recuerdo para él, y bueno, ayer ya dije que para el equipo también dar las gracias por el trabajo que han hecho, y bueno, luego felicitar a toda la gente que me apoya.
Después de esto, ¿qué planes tienes? ¿Ir a casa y descansar, ir en vacaciones?
Sí, ahora toca disfrutar en el podio, luego con los compañeros en la cena, y después ya a partir de mañana del viaje, sobre todo descansar y unas vacaciones buenas.
Gracias.
Yes, well, my limited Spanish there, he's happy with just about everything that he's taken part in this week, especially with the way the team has ridden. Now we can go down and join Anthony McCrossan.
Riding for Argos Shimano, Luka Mechtek.
获得今天赛段冠军的是来自喜马诺车队的 Luka Mechtek。
Happy in the moment, he gets to stand in the #1 position today in Beijing, China.
Is presented with the plate, the mascot, and the special gifts from the county.
下面有请林庆熙先生为获奖车手颁发吉祥物以及特色奖品。有请颁奖嘉宾与获奖车手合影留念。
So we ask our presenters to stand either side of today's stage winner of stage 5 of the Tour of Beijing from Argos Shimano, Luka Meshdek.
再次把掌声送给今天的赛段冠军 Luka Meshdek。好的，感谢颁奖嘉宾。
Thank you very much to our presenters. And thank you very much to Luca. A magnificent sprint to take the final stage of this year's race. We move on now to the red jersey as we present the winner of the Tour of Beijing. To present the awards, we welcome Mr. Alan Rumpf, the Director of Global Cycling Promotion, and Mr. Wang Mingdong, Deputy Manager of Sinova.
接下来要颁发的是今天的个人总成绩第1名。 欢迎颁奖嘉宾全球自行车推广中心主任阿兰·罗菲先生以及北京汽车销售有限公司副总经理王明东先生，欢迎。
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the 2013 Tour of Beijing, riding for Movistar, Bernard Inchalsti.
获得个人总成绩第1名的是来自移动自行车队的 Inchalsti。
Yes, his biggest overall win for sure, and comes at the end of a season in which he won a stage of the Giro d'Italia and wore the leader's jersey in that. It was a well-taken victory, and for Team Movistar too, a big notch on their bow as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the 2013 Tour of Beijing from Movistar, Bernard Inchalsti.
再次把欢呼送给红衫获得者，来自移动自行车队的 Inchalsti， 再次祝贺。好的，感谢颁奖嘉宾。
Thank you to our presenters. Thank you to Bernard. He will be back later for the final podium. Thank you, Bernard. He will be back for the final podium at the end of the presentation.
是的，那么一会儿我们将会再次请到他上台来，因为我们在最后将会颁发个人总成绩第3、第2以及第1名。
We now move on to the green jersey as the points winner of this year's race. To present the awards, we welcome Mr. Li Jinkang, the Deputy Director of the Beijing Sports Bureau, and Mr. Ban Guoling, Deputy Director of Chaoyang Sports Bureau.
下面要颁发的是冲刺王荣誉，欢迎颁奖嘉宾北京市体育局副局长李进康先生以及北京市朝阳区体育局副局长班国良先生，欢迎。
The winner of the points classification and twice stage winner in this year's race, riding for FDJ, Nasser Buhani.
获得绿衫荣誉的是我们今天比赛的第2、第3赛段的赛段冠军，来自博彩车队的 Buhani。下面有请李进康为获奖
He looks a little bit
车手
disappointed he didn't win this last stage, but he's no reason to be disappointed with his week here in China. 2 stage wins and winner of the race on points. A total of 11 wins he's had this year, far and away his best ever season, which only began as a professional back in 2011. And won't be 24 years of age till next July during the Tour de France.
再次把掌声送给今天的绿衫荣誉获得者冲刺王，来自博彩车队的 Buhani。
Thank you to our presenters, thank you to Nasser. He will be back later for the final presentation. We move on now to the best Chinese rider in this year's race, and we welcome to present the awards Mr. Bai Huzong, the president of KPT, and Ms. Xi Yan, GCP representative from China.
下面要颁发的是康比特最佳中国骑手，欢迎颁奖嘉宾北京康比特体育科技股份有限公司董事长白厚增先生以及全球自行车推广中心中国区代表石燕女士，欢迎。
And the best Chinese rider riding for Argos Shimano, Ji Chung.
获得康比特最佳中国骑手的是来自
Yes,
西马
and
诺
Ji
车
Chung
队的
here,
季承。
completing a great week for Argos Shimano, especially after today's
下面
result.
有请白厚
And
曾
he
先
is
生
the
为
best
季承
Chinese
颁发
finisher
奖
in
牌。
this race. He is actually the best Chinese cyclist as well. He's now ridden 2 Grand Tours. He's on a
下面有
World
请
Tour
石
team.
叶女士为季承
And
颁发
when
吉
the
祥物
first
以及
Tour of
特色奖
Beijing
品
took part, these Chinese riders were virtually unheard of, but not anymore. Progress is
有
steady.
请颁奖嘉宾与获奖车手合影留念。
The best Chinese rider riding for Argos Shimano, Ji Chung.
把最热烈的掌声送给最佳中国骑手季承。好的，感谢颁奖嘉
Actually
宾
has。a fan club here in Beijing, Jicheng. He's from the area, so it's very much a
We
home
move on
result for
now
him.
to the most aggressive rider on today's stage. To present the awards, we welcome Mr. Ding Jun, the event division chief of the Olympic Park Administrative
Little
Committee.
story went, by the way,
And
that when he
also Mr.
started
Alan
cycling,
Rushton, the
he was
GCP
passed by a
event
cyclist
consultant
on a
and
racing
managing
bike,
director of
and he
sport
was
and
riding in
television,
sandals
with
on
Philippe
an old
Plateau,
bike
President
with
and
bags on the side, and he
CEO
kept
of
up with him.
Infront Sports
And the cyclist
接
said,
下来要颁发的是
"You must
福
join
田
my
汽车
cycling
感
club."
斗奖
And that's how his
欢迎颁
career
奖嘉宾
started.
奥林匹克公园管委会大型活动处处长殷军先生，以及赛事顾问阿兰施莱顿先生以及菲利普莱普塔先生，欢迎。
The most aggressive riders on today's stage were voted Juan Antonio Flescher, and on the stage from BMC, Marco Pinotti.
获得今天福田汽车感斗奖的是来自 BMC
So
车
they
队的
voted the 2
Pinotti
retiring
下面有请颁
professionals,
奖嘉宾
and
为
it
获
looks
奖
like they
车手
haven't
颁发
found
奖
Juan
牌
Antonio
以及
Fletcher.
吉祥
He must
物
have
和
gone straight
特
off to
色
the
奖品
hotel, but they certainly found Marco Pantani, 6 times the time trial champion of Italy, and retires today.
Of the Tour of Beijing. We also thank Juan Antonio Flescher, ending another wonderful career as well. And Marco a little emotional on
The
the
last time on the podium. It all began in 1999, 15 seasons as a professional, and not a blemish on his character.
So we thank our presenters and Marco Pinotti, the most aggressive rider on today's stage from BMC, Marco Pinotti.
感斗奖得主来自 BMC 车队的 Pinotti，再次祝贺。
So we move on now to the king of the mountains of this year's race. And to present the awards, we welcome back Mr. Alan Rushton, the GCP event consultant, and Mr. Lin Wei Chuan, product manager of UCC.
接下来要颁发的是爬坡王荣誉，欢迎颁奖嘉宾赛事顾问阿兰莱士顿先生以及 UCC 全球自行车产品经理林北全先生，欢迎。
Ladies and gentlemen, the king of the mountains of the Tour of Beijing 2013, riding for Cannondale, Damiano Caruso.
获得爬坡王荣誉的是来自佳能戴尔车队的 Caruso。
Damiano Caruso, who celebrated his 26th birthday during this race. The day after he was 26, he went out and gained enough points to win the King of the Mountains. One road race victory in Italy this year, in March, in the race named after 2 of Italy's most famous cyclists, Fausto Coppi and Ercole Bartoli. And in all, he was 3rd in the new Tour of Alberta in Canada in September. And now he's the king of the mountains here in the Tour of Beijing.
好的，同时也有请颁奖嘉宾与获奖车手合影留念。
The king of the mountains of the Tour of Beijing, Damiano Caruso.
获得爬坡王红色圆点衫的是来自佳能戴尔车队的 Caruso。
Thank you to our presenters, thank you to Damiano. We're going to move on now to the best young rider in this year's race. And to present the awards, we welcome Mr. Wang Ming Dong, the Deputy Manager of Sonova, and Mr. Feng Chang Nin, the Deputy Director of Chaoyang Sports Bureau.
接下来要颁发的是新人王白山荣誉，欢迎颁奖嘉宾北京汽车销售有限公司副总经理王明东先生以及北京市朝阳区体育局副局长冯长林先生，欢迎。
the winner of the white jersey for the best young rider of this year's race, riding for AG Duet Le Mondial, Roman Bardet.
获得新人王荣誉的是来自 AG Tour 车队的
Won't be 23 till next month. Romain Bardet rides for AG Tour La Mondiale French team, and he's been a sensation this year in his second year as a professional. Started off in June with 4th place in a race just near Bordeaux in the south of France, the Route du Sud they call it, the race in the road in the south. In August he won another race in the middle of his country, the overall of the Tour de l'Ain. Now he's voted here the highest place finisher and best young rider. First Frenchman on the list as well. In his first Tour de France this summer he finished an incredible 15th.
Thank you very much to our presenters. Thank you very much to Romain. In the Tour of Beijing we have an award for the winning team. And to present the award, we welcome Mr. Li Yingchuan, Director of Beijing Sports Bureau, Mr. Fan Jing Chao, Deputy Director of Sonova, and Mr. Alan Rumpf, the Director of Global Cycling Promotion.
下面要颁发的是团体总成绩第1名的荣誉。下面有请颁奖嘉宾北京市体育局局长李颖川先生、北京汽车销售有限公司副总经理樊清涛先生以及全球自行车推广中心主任阿兰罗菲先生，欢迎。
And the winning team are the BMC Racing Team: Stephen Cummings, Matthias Frank, Martin Kohler, Marcus Burkhardt, Dominic Nertz, Lawrence Varbas, and Marco Pinotti.
获得团体总成绩第1名的
Best
是
team in the race. This
BMC 车
the
队。
team prize calculated by the first 3 finishes on every daily stage. The times added together, and the riders with the lowest times contribute to the leading team.
As the winning team of this year's race, we should mention they also won stage 1 with Tor Hushoff.
Sadly, Torhushoff had to return to his home after a phone call from his wife saying that their young baby was sick, hopefully not too serious, but he did go home when he was lying in 2nd place in this race.
我们也同时把掌声送给获得今年团体总成绩第1名的 BMC 车队。
The winning team, BMC Racing Team. And now we present them with their mascots.
好的，下面我们也有请颁奖嘉宾为 BMC 车队的车手颁发特色奖品以及吉祥物。
And now we will also present them with the champagne, if they've got any more hands left, as the winning team of this year's race.
当然，我们少不了用香槟庆祝这一值得高兴的时刻。那么，同时也有请我们的颁奖嘉宾先把香槟颁发给 BMC 车队的每一名车手。
The winning team of this year's Tour of Beijing are the BMC Racing Team.
Oh, good shot.
再次把欢呼送给团体总成绩第1名最佳车队 BMC 车队。 他们也是非常兴奋的在台上了，玩起了香
He was
槟大
4th in the
战。
very first Tour of Beijing in 2011.
再次把掌声送给
He was
BMC
also
车
one of the
队。
riders. He's number 42. One of the riders who took part here in the Olympic Games as well in the time trial in 2008.
是的。 那么我们当然还会有个人总成绩的前3名的颁奖，所以大家不要走开。
Thank you, guys. We need to move on now to the podium presentation of the top 3 of this year's race.
They're not going. That's as simple as that at the moment. They're enjoying the moment as best team in the Tour of Beijing. As Steve Cumming gets his own back
We're going
there.
to move on now to the presentation of the top 3 riders in this year's race. So the top 3 riders in this year's race, we move on to this presentation now. Ladies and gentlemen, we present the 3rd placed rider on the general classification. To present the awards, we welcome Mr. Qian Zhu Chung, Deputy Director of the Olympic Park Administrative Committee, and Mr. Du Wei Dong, the Manager of Jiakru.
是的，接下来我们要颁发的是个人总成绩第3名，欢迎颁奖嘉宾北京市奥林匹克公园管委会常务副主任田巨清先生，以及捷库北京体育服装有限公司总经理杜卫东先生，欢迎。
Third place on the podium of this year's Tour of Beijing. Please welcome from Team Sky, David Lopez.
David Lopez comes out, a little bit of an irony because last year he was part of the Movistar team who provided the winner of this race. He moved over to Team Sky this year and finished 4th in September in the Tour of Britain and now finishes 3rd here in China in the Tour of Beijing.
下面有请杜卫东先生为获奖车手颁发特色奖品以及吉祥物，有请。
David Lopez, 3rd place in this year's race. Third place in this year's race, David Lopez of Team Sky.
Tried to make his move as planned on the mountain, but his didn't come off.
Stay on the stage, please.
As he will occupy the 3rd placed podium. Now we await Ireland's Dan Martin.
To present the 2nd place rider, we welcome Mr. Chen Guangming, Vice President of China Gold and Silver Trade Center, and Mr. Wu Yamu, General Manager of UCC.
下面要颁发的是个人总成绩第2名，欢迎颁奖嘉宾中色金银贸易中心副总裁郑光明先生，以及 UCC 环球自行车总经理吴亚谋先生，欢迎。
Second place rider in this year's Tour of Beijing, riding for Garmin Sharp, Daniel Martin.
Yes, he continues a wonderful season for the 27-year-old. 4th in the Spring Classic called the Flèche Wallonne. Won the Liège-Bastogne-Liège, a stage of the Tour de France. Crashed heavily and left the Tour of Spain with concussion. Came back to finish 4th in the Tour of Lombardy just before he travelled to China to finish 2nd here.
And so we thank our presenters as we just get the photographs of the top riders, the 2nd and 3rd place in this year's race.
是的。那么现在我们已经颁发了个人总成绩的第3名以及第2名。那么也再一次感谢我们的颁奖嘉宾。
Thank you very much to our presenters, and we'll leave Daniel and David Lopez on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to make our podium complete. So we're going to welcome back now the winner of the 2013 Tour of Beijing in the red jersey, riding for Movistar, Bennett Inchausti.
我的个人总成绩第1名，也就是2013年环境赛总冠军的是
3 wins now this year for Bennett Inchausti. Last year he finished 10th in his home tour, the Vuelta a España. This year he finished 7th in the Tour of Italy, the Giro d'Italia. And now he wins the Tour of Beijing in China.
Mr. Chris Sigmund, the director of road events of SRAM, and Mr.
2 teammates, ex, talking to one another there, Lopez
那么最后我们也请出前3名的香槟颁奖嘉宾，有请北京汽车销售有限公司副总经理樊金涛先生、SRAM 速练全球公路车总监 Chris Sigmund 先生，以及全球自行车推广中心赛事股份阿兰·罗斯顿先生，有请。
We also welcome back now our winners today, Luca Mejde Cavalga Shimano, Nasser Buhani of
These are all the major winners in the Tour of Beijing now, as they come back for the final curtain call before, I'm sure, heading to the hotel, a massage, a good meal, a little bit of celebration, particularly for Mechik and Inchausti, and then out to the airport. Planes take off quite late in Beijing, right through the night. A lot of these riders leaving in the early hours of tomorrow morning.
So we now present champagne to all our award winners today, and we must bring also our panda onto the stage as well. Guys, don't open the champagne until everyone's got a bottle, so hold back a little bit. as we wait now for everyone to have champagne.
Dan Martin,
We're also gonna
all set to
welcome
rock,
onto the
he's not
stage
bothering to wait.
好的，那么我们现场来了一位非常特殊的嘉宾，把掌声送给我们的熊猫大使。Woo!
The Panda is on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, the top three in this year's tour of Beijing. David Lopez
Well, the
of
Panda
Team
here
Sky,
seems to
Dan Martin
like
of Garmin
Dan
Sharp,
Martin.
Ben
He was seen
Mikowski
chasing him
is the
away
winner
on
of
stage
this
2 at
year's
the
race.
start.
再次把掌声
And now he's
送
wearing
给
his
这
team
些获
colours.
奖的车手。赛段冠军、红衫得主、绿衫得主、中国骑手、感动奖、爬坡王、新人王、最佳车队以及个人总成绩前3名。
We all go say well done to Luca Mejdek, Nasser Buhani, Ji Chung, Juan Antonio Flescher, Marco Pinotti, Damiano Caruso, and Roman Bardet. We're going to bring the Panda onto the stage. Let's not hope he doesn't fall forward. There we go. There's your winners. Put your hands together, Beijing, for the winners of
The
this
men
year's
have made
race.
probably the best addition, competitively-wise, that we've seen in the Tour of Beijing in its 3 editions, because this time we penetrated the mountains which abound here to the west, the northwest, and the north of China, of Beijing rather. Beijing itself is on a plain,
Well, I'm sure you
and
agree,
the
it
riders
has been a
finding
fantastic
out in the
race.
countryside the hospitality of the people of China as well in the villages which abound in the mountains. It has been an extremely good tour of Beijing, and it's the end of the World Tour this year, and it'll be back next year, and so too will the Tour of Beijing. And on that note, I'll say goodbye to you for the last time. I hope you've enjoyed the coverage, and until the next time, it's Phil Liggett saying so long.
Very well done to everybody. Congratulations, it's been a fantastic race. If I can also call Hayden Ralston to the podium. The Panda's on the top step. Very well done to everyone. Dan, I think there might be one more award for you in a second with the Panda, and also Hayden Ralston, if I can call you if you're around. Thank you very much to everyone. We've enjoyed bringing you the Tour of Beijing of 2013. It's been a fantastic race.
是的，那么我们经历了5天非常非常精彩的最顶尖的公路自行车的角逐。我们在今天鸟巢和水立方这里，正式将今天的2013年环北京职业公路自行车赛拉上了最后的最圆满的句号。
Thank you very much to everyone who's watched the race. We've enjoyed talking to you, and we'll be back next year for more racing.
是的，那么安东尼是我的。